The Aurelia Expanse stretched like a sea of fractured jewels, a scatter of starlight cut with shadow. It was a dangerous frontier, rich in wormholes, mineral fields, and forgotten alien relics, and it was exactly where Rachel Deyra had been sent. Her vessel, the Selene's Promise, drifted toward a glass city that orbited the star Jarrell 9. The city itself gleamed like a crystalline crown, constructed by generations of engineers who had welded steel and plasma together with the precision of artistry. It was called Deyra's Spire, a hub of politics, espionage, and betrayal. Rachel stood at the viewport, her reflection layered against the blackness. Obsidian hair framed a face too delicate for war, but too sharp for innocence. Blue eyes traced the patterns of ships weaving around the station, cargo freighters, Dominion war frigates, and coalition cruisers, all pretending to be civil in the same orbit. Her official mission: serve as an envoy between the rival coalitions of the Expanse. Her true mission: uncover the Dominion's growing plot to dominate the trade routes, and perhaps the galaxy itself. Rachel touched the thin band of glass around her wrist, a hidden data conduit. Its glow whispered the latest intelligence reports. Dominion fleets massing near wormhole gates, whispers of an alien ruin buried in the nebula fields. All of it pointed to Kalen Vaith, the enigmatic commander whose ambitions had begun to darken the Expanse. She exhaled slowly, steadying her heartbeat. This was not her first mission, but it was the first where she felt vulnerable. She hated that word. Vulnerability was a fracture, a weakness, and yet, here, among the cold brilliance of the stars, she felt something tugging at her, something unseen. The docking clamps latched onto the vessel with a low vibration. A voice over the intercom: "Envoy Deyra, we are secured at Deyra's Spire. Delegates await your presence." Rachel smoothed the sleek fabric of her diplomatic attire, a deep midnight blue threaded with silver. To the galaxy, she would appear poised, untouchable, a negotiator of elegance and precision. Only she knew the truth, every step forward placed her deeper into a labyrinth of lies. The docking bay opened into a corridor of mirrored walls and pulsing light. Guards in chrome armor lined the path. Rachel's footsteps echoed softly, heels striking against the crystalline floor. Delegates bowed in greeting, some with genuine respect, others with suspicion hidden behind smiles. A minister from the Deyra Syndicate approached, offering flowery words about peace and stability. Rachel nodded politely, listening without listening. Her mind tracked movements, calculating threats, reading subtle gestures. Every handshake, every glance was a potential clue. In the grand chamber of the spire, a council had gathered. Merchants, governors, admirals, each one vying for influence. Holographic maps of the Expanse shimmered in the center, showing trade lines and disputed territories. Rachel entered gracefully, her presence drawing silence. Envoy Deyra, the presiding minister announced, sent from the High Council to oversee dialogue between the Syndicate and the Dominion. Dominion. The word lingered like smoke, and then she saw him. Though she had not expected him so soon, Kalen Vaith. He stood across the chamber, tall and commanding, in obsidian black military attire. His eyes, steel gray, caught hers in a single unbroken glance. Around him, officers whispered and scrolled through datapads, but Kalen watched only her, as though the galaxy itself had shrunk to this moment. Rachel's pulse betrayed her composure, quickening. She swallowed it down, forcing her expression into neutrality. She had studied Kalen's face 100 times in intelligence briefings, but no file had captured the gravity of his presence. Charisma radiated from him like a field. Magnetism, wrapped in danger. Their introduction was brief, ceremonial. A handshake. His hand was firm, his smile a shadow of amusement. His voice, low, resonant, carried through the chamber. "Envoy Deyra, welcome to the Expanse. I trust the journey treated you well?" Rachel tilted her chin slightly, her voice smooth. "The stars were calm enough. I hope they remain so, Commander. A murmur spread through the council, polite, words on the surface, yet the undertone was unmistakable. A duel of will had already begun. That night, Rachel retreated to her guest chamber in the spire. She leaned against the glass wall, watching the distant stars shimmer like living veins of light. She replayed the encounter in her mind. Kaelin's gaze, the way he seemed to strip through her layers without effort. She whispered to herself, almost angrily, I cannot afford this distraction. Her wristband chimed softly. Encrypted data streaming. In. Reports of Dominion fleets again, creeping closer to the wormhole gates. The galaxy was trembling on the edge of war. Rachel pressed her palm against the cold glass, staring into infinity. She could feel it already, the threads of intrigue wrapping tighter around her, pulling her toward a future she both feared and secretly longed for. The envoy of glass had entered the game, and nothing in the Aurelia Expanse would ever be the same. The political summit aboard the Deyra spire began under the artificial glow of a synthetic dawn. The chamber was a cathedral of glass and holographic light, stretching hundreds of meters overhead, its walls alive with shifting projections of star maps, trade routes, and schematics of contested colonies. Rachel moved like a shadow among the delegates, every step measured, every smile calibrated. She had learned long ago that diplomacy was often a mask, and every mask hid teeth. She wasn't expecting him so soon. Kaelin Vaith entered the chamber like a tempest given form. The murmurs hushed almost instantly. Conversations died mid-sentence. His presence was a gravitational pull, commanding attention even from those who had sworn allegiance to others. He didn't move to speak yet. He simply observed, scanning the room, and finally, when his gaze landed on Rachel, it lingered as if assessing her worth. Her pulse quickened, though she maintained the serene exterior of an envoy. Focus, she reminded herself. He is the enemy, nothing else. Kaelin's first words were measured, intentionally casual, but his eyes betrayed the undercurrent, a mix of amusement and something dangerously intimate. Envoy Deyra, he said, his voice low enough that only she seemed to hear. The Expanse suits you better than I expected. Rachel allowed a slow smile, one that was polite but edged with ice. I am glad it meets your expectations, Commander. I hear you have been quite industrious in preparing for this summit. A faint quirk of a smile played across Kaelin's lips. I always prepare. One cannot afford carelessness in the Expanse, especially when dealing with interesting company. His words were deliberate, layered, and for a fraction of a second, Rachel felt the world narrowed down to just the two of them. Delegates began their formal discussions, but Rachel felt the current between her and Kaelin like a live wire. Every gesture, every glance carried a hidden weight. He moved with ease through the council, speaking to others with that magnetic charm she had only seen from afar in intelligence reports. Yet he kept glancing back at her, silently daring her to acknowledge the tension. Rachel excused herself to the observation balcony, a ribbon of transparent glass that wrapped around the chamber. From here, the Expanse stretched in all directions, ships weaving along plasma trails, wormhole portals flickering with ghostly energy, and distant stars scattering light like frozen fire. She pressed her palms to the glass, trying to calm the storm in her chest. Then she sensed him. Kaelin had followed, stepping onto the balcony as silently as a shadow, leaving the sliding doors closed between them for effect. He didn't speak at first. He simply watched the vast expanse beside her. His presence was overwhelming yet intimate, a contradiction that made her skin tingle. Finally, he broke the silence, his voice carrying that signature mix of command and intimacy. "Do you ever wonder," he said, "why the expanse feels so alive yet so empty?" Rachel tilted her head, curious despite herself. Alive with danger, yes. Empty. Perhaps because people keep forgetting what truly matters. Power, profit, survival, they drown everything else out. He took a step closer, close enough that she could feel the faint warmth radiating from him, yet not close enough to break. The formal distance. And yet, Kalen murmured, there are moments that matter more than survival, moments worth taking risks for. Rachel's breath caught, her mind warning her against the pull. She had trained for years to separate duty from desire, but the man before her was rewriting all rules. One mistake and the galaxy, or my heart, could shatter. The intercom chimed, breaking the tension, announcing the resumption of council. Proceedings. Kalen straightened, smoothing his coat. Duty calls, he said simply. And just like that, the spell was broken. Rachel returned to her seat, her mind spinning with thoughts she barely recognized. Kalen was her enemy, yes, but the danger was intoxicating. Every word, every glance between them carried unspoken promises and veiled threats. And somewhere beneath the layers of political maneuvering, she sensed a game being played, one she was unwillingly compelled to join. The summit continued intense formality, but Rachel could feel the lines of battle forming, not just between fleets and alliances, but between them. Every delegate's motion, every projection of data, every whispered consultation was a backdrop to the silent duel with Kalen. It wasn't a duel of weapons yet, but of wills, hearts, and subtle power plays. By the time the summit adjourned, Rachel understood one truth. The Expanse was larger than any map, more perilous than any warship, and more dangerous than any political rival. And now, in the midst of stars and steel, she realized that her enemy was not only Kalen Vaith, but also the impossible attraction she felt toward him. She left the chamber with her posture intact, her mind a storm. She had come to the Expanse to prevent war, to protect lives, to uncover secrets. But she now understood that every plan, every strategy, every carefully chosen word would be tested by the presence of a man who could unravel her as easily as he commanded fleets. As she walked through the glass corridors of Deyra's spire, she whispered to herself, almost afraid to admit it, I cannot look away. And from the shadows behind her, Kalen watched her retreating figure, a faint, knowing smile curving his lips. The game had begun. The Aurelia Expanse was a place where the light of distant stars barely reached, where dark currents of gravity and drifting wreckage wove between inhabited systems. Rachel Deyra's ship, the Selene's Promise, drifted silently through a nebula, a cloud that shimmered like molten glass. The airlock hissed and sealed behind her as she stepped onto the observation deck, her reflection layered over the swirling, iridescent clouds outside. She had intercepted intelligence that morning. Dominion fleets were maneuvering in ways that suggested a blockade near the Lyria wormhole, a critical artery for trade and communications between outer colonies. It was subtle, almost invisible, if one didn't know the telltale signs of Dominion strategy, slight trajectory shifts, delayed communication pulses, missing supply ships. And Rachel knew this strategy well. It was the kind of quiet, invisible domination Kalen Vaith preferred, the kind that crushed without warning. Yet even as she studied the projections, her mind kept replaying the summit, Kalen's gaze. The way he had smiled, just faintly, as though aware of every thought she had. The image haunted her more than any fleet formation or battle plan. She shook her head, trying to banish it. Focus, she whispered. This is war, not this. The nebula outside the observation window pulsed with light, distorted by pockets of charged particles. Rachel leaned forward, tracing the paths of ships with a gloved finger. Each movement told a story, if one could read it. The Dominion ships weren't moving blindly. They were herding, trapping colonies, preparing something. She exhaled sharply. Her comlink beeped softly, and a discreet holographic screen flickered into view beside her wrist. The encrypted message was from an ally within the Coalition's intelligence network, Rachel, you were right. Dominion. Activity near Lyria. They are preparing a trap. Estimated deployment within 48 hours. Kalen is leading personally. Be careful. Merrick. Rachel's lips pressed into a thin line. Kalen leading personally meant he intended more than just conquest. It meant strategy intertwined with personal stakes. His signature touch was always dangerous, precise, and often unpredictable. Later, she convened with her small team of advisors aboard the Celine's Promise. The briefing room was dark, illuminated only by holographic star maps floating in the WA center. Lieutenant Sierra, her tactical analyst, tapped rapidly on a projection. The Dominion has manipulated local supply chains. They've staged fake mining accidents to thin our patrols. We're walking into a calculated bottleneck. Rachel nodded, absorbing every detail. Her mind worked like a machine, translating statistics and probabilities into possible outcomes. Then we need to reposition our patrols without revealing our hand. Kalen thrives on predictable reactions. We'll be unpredictable. We'll force him to commit prematurely. Sierra's brow furrowed. That requires splitting forces. Risky. Rachel's eyes hardened. Risk is inevitable, but if we don't act, colonies will be lost, and the Expanse will belong to him. Even as she spoke, a small, nearly imperceptible pulse ran through her. He's watching me. He always is. She didn't know if it was intuition or fear, but she couldn't shake it. That night, Rachel allowed herself a brief moment alone on the upper deck, gazing out into the infinite black. Stars streaked past as ships jumped in and out of the nebula. Her reflection shimmered alongside the void. She couldn't help but think of Kalen, not as an enemy, but as a man who existed simultaneously in danger and fascination. He had something about him that drew her in despite the warning sirens in her mind. The silence was broken by a soft chime, an unexpected visitor. Kalen Vaith appeared, stepping through the shadows like a phantom. His eyes glinted beneath the dim light, scanning her face. "Envoy Deyra," he said, voice smooth but edged with tension. "I should warn you, the Expanse has a way of making enemies intimate without consent." Rachel stiffened, masking her surprise. "Commander Vaith, this is irregular." He smiled faintly, a mixture of amusement and danger. "Perhaps. Or perhaps it's necessary. We are both navigating the same currents after all. Different goals, same stars." Rachel studied him, noting the subtle shift in his posture, the unspoken message behind his words. Every encounter with him was a puzzle, a dance she couldn't refuse even when she knew it would cost her. "Kalen," she said cautiously, "your fleets are moving near Lyria. I suggest you reconsider the consequences of underestimating me." He stepped closer, close enough that the distance between them became a charged space, a current she could feel brushing against her skin. "Do you think I underestimate you, or do you think I'm testing you?" The tension was almost unbearable. Rachel wanted to retreat, to return to calculations and fleet positions, but some part of her, the part that longed for connection in a universe built on cold steel, wanted to step closer. She held her ground. "Test all you want. You'll find I am persistent." Kalen's smile deepened, enigmatic, unreadable. "I admire persistence. It's rare. And dangerous." He withdrew, melting back into the shadows as quietly as he had arrived, leaving Rachel alone with the nebula and her racing thoughts. Her hand rested on the glass, and she whispered into the void, "Why does he haunt me so?" And as the stars twisted and shimmered beyond the hull, Rachel realized that the Expanse was not only a battlefield of fleets and power, but a battlefield of hearts, where desire and danger collided with every choice. The shadows of the Expanse were deep, and Kalen was in them, always just out of reach, always watching. The Celine's Promise cut silently through the outer fringes of the Aurelia Expanse, its hull gleaming faintly under the muted light of a distant dying sun. Rachel stood on the bridge, her fingers tracing the cool steel of the console as she reviewed patrol routes and fleet reports. Every metric, every blinking indicator, Every trajectory line was a potential threat. But the warnings in her mind, the ones not on any screen, were sharper than any alarm. And then it happened. A sudden, violent tremor shook the ship. Red lights flashed. The intercom screamed, "Unidentified vessels approaching, multiple hostiles." "Detected!" Rachel's pulse surged. "Status report!" Lieutenant Sierra's fingers danced across her console. "Pirates! Heavy armament! Moving fast! Blocking our jump coordinates! They're cutting us off from the nearest colony!" Rachel's mind went into action, plotting evasive maneuvers. But even as calculations streamed through her, she realized something chilling. Among the attackers, one ship bore the insignia of Kalen Vaith's Dominion. Unexpected, unnerving, personal. He's here. The bridge doors hissed as Rachel moved toward the tactical station, her long coat trailing behind her like a shadow. Her team braced as the enemy ships fired plasma pulses, ricocheting against the shields. The nebula around them flared, particles igniting in bursts of purple and gold. Rachel's voice cut through the chaos, steady and commanding. "Divert auxiliary power to shields. Prepare evasive maneuvers. We're not going down today." Amid the explosions and flashing light, a transmission came through, not hostile, but unmistakably Kalen. His voice, calm and magnetic, overrode the alarms. "Envoy Deyra, I suggest you don't fight us. We are more than what you think." Rachel's hands clenched. She knew he wasn't offering a truce. He was testing her, proving a point. Yet, something in that tone, beneath the threat, carried the familiar undertone she couldn't resist. "We are linked, whether you will it or not." The battle escalated. Pirate frigates attempted to flank the Selene's Promise, their plasma cannons cutting arcs of orange through the nebula. Rachel directed her ship with a surgeon's precision, weaving between asteroids and energy bursts, until a stray shot tore through the outer hull. Alarms blared. Sparks rained down from the ceiling. "Hull breach in Section 7, Sierra shouted. "Pressure dropping." Rachel's breath hitched, not from fear but adrenaline. She made a split-second decision. The only way out was to engage Kalen directly, draw his ship into a narrow passage within the nebula, and use the terrain to their advantage. "Set course for the Vaith flagship," she ordered. "We end this." In close quarters, her crew exchanged uncertain glances, but Rachel's gaze was unwavering. She knew what she risked, and yet, in the heart of danger, she felt alive, more than she had in months of careful planning and diplomacy. The ships collided with the narrow canyon of glowing gas and rock. Plasma bolts ricocheted, lighting the nebula like fire weaving through silk. And then, as if fate had conspired, Rachel found herself face to face with Kalen aboard a neutral orbital station, a precarious truce space between the fleets. Kalen's presence was overwhelming. His armor gleamed under the station's emergency. Lights, shadow, and radiance intertwined. "Envoy Deyra," he said, voice low and smooth. "You are reckless." Rachel's pulse throbbed in her ears. "And you're predictable." The silence between them was thick, charged with danger and something else, something unspoken, a tension neither wanted to name yet could not ignore. Then a tremor shook the station, throwing them off balance. Instinct and proximity pulled them together. Their hands brushed, and for a moment the battle outside vanished. Kalen's eyes locked on hers. "You are fire," he murmured, "and I cannot resist it." Rachel's breath hitched. She should have recoiled, pushed him away, reminded herself of duty, loyalty, and the entire galaxy at stake. But she didn't. Something in her cracked and opened, and for the briefest heartbeat, she let herself be drawn into the impossible, an intimacy born from chaos. Their faces hovered inches apart. The nebula's light bathed them in iridescent colors, casting shadows that danced across their skin. And then, just as their lips were about to meet, a massive shock wave from the outer battle slammed into the station, sending debris spinning and knocking them apart. Both stumbled, adrenaline surging. Kalen gripped her arm, not to strike, but steady her. His fingers lingered and for a fleeting second, Rachel felt the unspoken connection between them, raw and unyielding. "Next time," he said, voice low, magnetic, "we might not be interrupted." Rachel straightened, pulling away. Her chest heaved, not just from exertion, but from the undeniable pull between them. She returned to her ship as the battle raged, her mind a swirl of calculations and desire. As the Selene's Promise slipped back into warp corridors, Rachel allowed herself a single thought, whispered to the void. "He is danger, and I am drawn to him anyway." Somewhere beyond the nebula, Kalen's ship followed, or perhaps led, her into the next chapter of this deadly, intoxicating dance. And, in that moment, Rachel understood a truth she could not deny. Survival in the Expanse was as much about navigating hearts as fleets. The stars bore witness, cold and distant, to the fire and silk of their first encounter. The Aurelia Expanse had a way of hiding its truths in the shadows of stars. Nebulae drifted like smoke over the dark canvas of space, concealing dangers and treasures alike. Rachel Deyra stood alone on the observation deck of the Selene's Promise, her gaze fixed on the swirling patterns of cosmic dust. Every faint pulse of light seemed to whisper secrets she was only beginning to decipher. Her mind was occupied with one thought above all, Kalen Vaith. The commander's presence haunted her even when he wasn't near. His shadow followed her, a reminder that the line between enemy and obsession was perilously thin. A soft chime alerted her to a new transmission. Rachel activated her wristband, revealing a holographic message from Merrick, her trusted contact deep within the Coalition Intelligence Network. "Rachel, you were right to suspect Dominion interference. The ruins in Aurelia Expanse are real. Kalen isn't seeking mere territorial dominance. He's after something older, something powerful. Be careful." Rachel's fingers lingered over the message. She had suspected it, but the confirmation felt heavier than anticipated. The ruin Kalen sought wasn't just a tool, it was a weapon capable of reshaping civilizations. Her pulse quickened. If he obtained it, the balance of the galaxy could tip in his favor, regardless of her feelings. She convened with her advisors in the war room, a chamber lined with holographic projections and screens pulsating with real time. Fleet movements. Lieutenant Sira, ever precise, displayed the latest data. The Dominion has sent scouts to Aurelia Expanse's outer reaches. Their scans are incomplete, but the anomaly readings are unusual. It's as if the ruin is responding to their presence, active, alive, and possibly sentient. Rachel frowned. "Sentient?" Sira nodded. "Potentially. Ancient artifacts of this nature sometimes interact with living consciousness. If Kalen gains control, he could manipulate entire populations, perhaps without even being aware of the ruin's true intentions." Rachel's mind raced. She imagined the ruin, a colossal alien structure, its surface etched with starlight patterns, pulsating with a rhythm older than any human memory. Its power could enslave minds or amplify fleets beyond comprehension. And Kalen, she didn't know whether he understood the risk or intended to wield it as a weapon. Her reflection caught in the viewport. Blue eyes mirrored determination, but also a shadow of fear. She knew she would have to confront him, not only on the battlefield, but in a confrontation of wits and desire. Their connection, volatile and undeniable, complicated every plan she had. Later, Rachel ventured into the Expanse herself, piloting a reconnaissance craft through a corridor of drifting asteroids and luminous plasma pockets. The nebula refracted the light in eerie, multicolored patterns, casting a ghostly glow over her face. Every radar ping could mean danger. Every shadow could conceal a Dominion scout, or worse, Kalen himself. She entered a narrow canyon of shattered meteors, scanning for residual energy signatures, and then she saw it, a faint hum, almost imperceptible, emanating from a structure partially buried in cosmic debris. The alien ruin. Her breath caught. It was unlike anything she had ever seen. Towering monoliths stretched into the void, their surfaces inscribed with starlight glyphs that shimmered and shifted as though alive. The energy signature pulsed in subtle rhythms, almost like a heartbeat. Rachel felt a strange resonance, a pull that tugged at her mind as if the ruin were aware of her presence. Her wristband beeped, a transmission from Kalen. The holographic image of him materialized before her, framed by the dim light of his Dominion flagship. His expression was unreadable, but his tone was intimate, dangerously calm. "Envoy Deyra," he said, voice soft, yet commanding. "I see. You found my path. Careful, the ruins are not merely structures, they are choices. And choices carry consequences." Rachel's pulse raced. "Kalen, you have no idea what you're meddling with. This isn't just power, it's older than any civilization. You could lose control, and everything could fall apart." Kalen's gaze hardened, but there was a flicker of something else, curiosity, or perhaps respect. "And you? Do you intend to stop me? Or join me?" Rachel didn't answer immediately. Her eyes traced the alien inscriptions, trying to decipher their meaning. Could he truly understand the ruin? Could anyone? The thought that he might wield it, knowingly, or not, filled her with dread. Yet at the same time, she felt the familiar pull of his presence, even through the distance, a magnetic force she could not resist. The comlink clicked off. Rachel exhaled sharply, gripping the console. She had a choice: pursue Kalen's actions, directly, or attempt to gain control herself. Either path was dangerous. Either path might bring her closer to him and closer to destruction. As she floated amidst the ghostly glow of the ruin, Rachel realized that the Aurelia Expanse had layers, upon layers of secrets hidden in starlight and shadow. Every fleet maneuver, every whispered conversation, every glance between her and Kalen was part of the same intricate tapestry. She placed a hand on the alien monolith, and the glyphs shimmered beneath her touch. A soft vibration ran through her fingers, almost like a warning. She felt the weight of choice pressing against her soul, and she understood with a cold clarity that the coming days would test not only her strategy, but her heart. Because in the Aurelia Expanse, power and desire were intertwined, and Kalen Vaith was the axis upon which both turned. Vera's spire had never looked so gilded and treacherous. From the central atrium, the city of glass and steel glittered under the artificial suns, a perfect reflection of the ambitions and deceit that ran through its veins. Rachel Deyra walked among the council chambers with a practiced grace, her every gesture measured, her eyes sharp. Every smile, every courteous nod was a mask. Every mask concealed intentions that could mean death, or worse, betrayal. Reports of Dominion movements had come in overnight. The fleet near Lyria was shifting again, and Rachel knew Kalen Vaith was orchestrating this like a conductor with a galaxy of instruments. But here, in the heart of the spire, the threats were subtler: whispers, veiled warnings, and the soft clatter of secrets passing hands like currency. A delegate approached her, a silver-haired woman from the Lumerian Trade Guild, her smile sweet but her eyes calculating. "Envoy Deyra, I trust your mission is progressing. We all hope for peace, though the Dominion is proving difficult, yes?" Rachel inclined her head. "Indeed, but peace is often built on sharp edges. We must be careful where we step." The Oampu woman's smile did not falter. "And some edges," she said softly, "cut deeper than others. Do beware whom you trust, envoy." Rachel nodded politely, though the warning tightened her chest. Every word in Vera's spire carried weight, and every gesture was a potential trap. She had trained for this, yet the Expanse had a way of bending even the most precise calculations. Later, Rachel returned to her quarters only to find an unexpected visitor waiting in the shadows: Kalen. His presence was magnetic, dangerous, and entirely unwelcome. yet she did not recoil. "Kalen," she said, her voice calm but sharp. "This is highly irregular." He stepped closer, the light from the corridor reflecting off his armor. "Perhaps, or perhaps it is inevitable. You move like the stars themselves, calculating, precise, but always too close to danger. I thought we could speak privately." Rachel crossed her arms, trying to mask the pulse of her heart. "And why would I indulge you?" "Because," he said softly, "you are the only one who can see the currents of this expanse clearly. I do not often admit it, but you are exceptional." Her breath caught despite herself. Kalen's praise was always a trap, words weighted with meaning, danger, and desire. She took a step back, regaining composure. "Exceptional is not safe, especially when dealing with you." Kalen's eyes softened for a fraction of a second, a fleeting vulnerability, before the mask returned. "Then perhaps safety was never your intention. Envoy Deyra." The council meeting that evening was a storm of subtle manipulation. Delegates exchanged veiled threats and false alliances, each word a blade disguised as diplomacy. Rachel observed, quietly noting the alliances that shifted like quicksilver. She detected a pattern, an intricate web of loyalty and betrayal, and pieced together a truth that others would never see. Someone within the coalition was feeding Kalen intelligence. Her mind raced. A mole, and they are close. Too close. Rachel excused herself to the observation balcony, needing the solace of the stars. The nebula beyond the spire shimmered, reflecting her inner turmoil. She had suspected Kalen's fleets, the alien ruin, but betrayal from within her own ranks was a knife she had not anticipated. And then she felt him behind her. Kalen, silent as a shadow. "Thinking, Envoy." His voice was a low rumble. Rachel turned, eyes narrowing. "You have no place here." Kalen stepped closer, until the distance between them crackled with tension. "I am everywhere you cannot anticipate," he said. "And yet, I am also the only one who can help you navigate the currents. You cannot see the full picture, Rachel. Not yet." She shook her head. "And I do not trust you. Not fully." His lips curved in a half-smile, a dangerous, intimate gesture. "Trust is a luxury for those who survive." The words echoed in her mind as he stepped back, disappearing into the shadows. Rachel exhaled, knowing he was right, but the admission tasted bitter. That night, encrypted transmissions revealed the mole's identity, a high-ranking coalition officer feeding Kalen, intelligence under the guise of loyalty. Rachel's pulse quickened as she realized the magnitude of the betrayal. The Expanse was no longer only about fleets, ruins, and politics. It was about deception at every level, about choosing who to trust when trust itself was a weapon. She convened a secret team in the war room. "We have a traitor among us," she announced. "If we do not act carefully, the Dominion will have access to everything, our fleets, our colonies, and the ruin." The team exchanged glances. Lieutenant Sira asked cautiously, "And Kalen?" Rachel hesitated, then replied, "Kalen is part of the equation, but he is also something else, something I cannot define yet. We must contain the mole first." Later, alone on the observation deck, Rachel allowed herself a moment of honesty. The stars reflected off her face, cold and distant, yet mesmerizing. She whispered into the void, "I cannot let him, any of them, win. And yet, why does my heart betray me even as my mind steels itself against him?" The Expanse had its shadows, and the dance of betrayal had begun. Every glance, every word, every movement would carry consequences. And Rachel understood with chilling clarity that in this galaxy of lies and light, survival demanded cunning, and perhaps a surrender to the dangerous gravity of desire. Somewhere beyond the spire, Kalen watched too, always calculating, always anticipating, and somewhere, deep in the shadows of the coalition, the mole waited, unaware that Rachel's mind was already 3 steps ahead. The game had begun, and the stakes were higher than ever. The ruins called to her, not with words, not with pleas, but with vibrations that resonated deep within her chest, like a heartbeat she had never felt yet recognized instantly. Rachel Deyra piloted the Selene's Promise through the shifting mists of the Aurelia Expanse, her eyes locked on the ancient monoliths that pierced the dark nebula like frozen spires of forgotten gods. The alien ruin had revealed itself partially before, but now it was alive in ways she hadn't anticipated. Pulses of light, soft, rhythmic, almost musical, coursed along the carvings etched into the monoliths, reflecting in the nebula clouds like waves on a dark ocean. Rachel's fingers hovered over the console, resisting the urge to touch, to interact. Every instinct screamed that this was no ordinary artifact. "It is aware of me," she thought. And her pulse quickened. Her wristband chimed with a transmission. Kalen's image flickered into view, framed by the dim lights of his Dominion flagship. His gaze was sharp, calculating, yet softened by a hint of curiosity that unsettled her. "Envoy Deyra," he said, voice calm yet charged. "You are close? Closer than I expected. I wonder, do you feel it?" Rachel swallowed. "Yes, I can feel it. The ruin, it's more than energy, it's intelligence." "I don't know how else to describe it." Kalen leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "And you are not afraid?" "Afraid?" Rachel's lips curved in a faint, tense smile. "Of course I am, but fear is irrelevant if survival depends on action." His faint smile mirrored hers, though darker, more dangerous. "Very well. Then we are both compelled by necessity. Yet I wonder, Envoy, what compels you more, duty or the pull of the unknown?" The question lingered, uncomfortably intimate. Rachel's fingers itched to respond with more than words, but she knew any emotional confession could be a liability. The unknown is nothing without context, and duty is what defines the rest of my choices. Kalen inclined his head, silently acknowledging the barrier she had erected and the challenge she presented. Rachel's ship edged closer to the largest monolith, its surface covered in glyphs that shimmered, as if breathing. She had spent hours decoding patterns, comparing them to old Expanse charts, cross-referencing Dominion archives. Yet the symbols remained elusive, constantly shifting under her gaze. The bridge shook suddenly, a low rumble reverberating through the hull. Energy pulses surged from the monolith, reacting to her ship's proximity. Lights flashed across the console, and the ship's sensors recorded anomalies defying conventional physics. "Sir, energy fluctuations are off the charts," Lieutenant Sira shouted. It's interacting with our systems directly." Rachel's breath caught. "It's alive, and it knows we're here." A soft vibration ran through her fingers as she instinctively touched the control panel, aligning sensors to a glyph pattern. The pulse intensified, a wave of resonance washing over the Selene's Promise. For a brief moment, the monoliths light flared, revealing faint images, memories perhaps, or echoes of civilizations long gone. Ghostly figures moved among the carvings, echoing histories that had never been recorded. Rachel's mind reeled. It's history, knowledge, power, and it's communicating somehow. A sharp alarm pierced the resonance. Kalen's fleet had arrived, cloaked in the shadows of the nebula, their presence almost spectral. His ship hovered near the ruin, engines dimmed, waiting. And then an unexpected transmission reached Rachel, direct, intimate, unencrypted. "Envoy," Kalen's voice was a whisper over the comlink, "the ruin is responding to both of us. It sees your mind. It knows our intentions. Tread carefully, or it will consume more than your curiosity." Rachel's pulse thrummed in sync with the alien monolith's light. The thought of Kalen so near, of their minds brushing indirectly through the ruin's resonance, ignited a dangerous awareness within her. She felt him, not physically, but through some intangible connection mediated by the artifact itself. This is beyond politics, beyond fleets, she realized. It is a test, and he is part of it. Her hands hovered over the controls, aligning the ship closer to the central glyph. A beam of starlight refracted through the nebula struck the monolith's apex. The ruin pulsed in response, sending shock waves that rippled through space-time in miniature, subtle but perceptible. Images of long-dead civilizations flashed across her vision. Cities burning, fleets falling, leaders in despair. And then, almost immediately, visions of Kalen. Appeared strategic brilliance, fleet maneuvers, and moments of emotion, fleeting and raw. Rachel stumbled back from the console, breathless. It's showing me him, and he is showing me himself through it. Minutes stretched into hours, the ruins' echoes weaving a tapestry of history, strategy, and emotion. Rachel realized the Expanse was not only a battlefield, it was a crucible of mind and heart. Every choice she made here would ripple outward, not just politically, but through forces she barely understood. And Kalen, for all his brilliance and danger, was a constant shadow in every revelation, a mirror reflecting both temptation and peril. She exhaled, forcing herself to focus. I cannot let desire cloud judgment. Not now, not ever. Yet as she returned to the ship's controls, aligning them for a retreat to relay data back to Coalition Command, she could not shake the resonance of the ruin or Kalen's presence. Both pulsed in her mind, intertwined, impossible to separate, and somewhere, just beyond the nebula, Kalen watched her actions with the same intensity as if the ruin itself had bound their fates together. The Expanse had spoken. Its secrets were written in starlight, and the echoes of the ruin had chosen witnesses whose hearts and minds were dangerously susceptible. Rachel realized with chilling clarity that nothing in the Aurelia Expanse would ever be the same again. The Selene's promise slipped through the Expanse like a phantom, shields humming softly as Rachel Deyra guided the ship along the nebula's shifting currents. The alien ruin's pulse still resonated faintly in her mind, a ghostly reminder of its power and of Kalen Vaith's proximity. Every sensor ping, every energy fluctuation seemed amplified, as though the Expanse itself were holding its breath. Lieutenant Sira's voice cut through the quiet hum of the bridge. Envoy, Dominion scouting vessels detected at Vector 19-3. They're cloaked, but I've picked up faint residual energy signatures. Someone's masking their presence deliberately. Rachel's fingers flew across the console, aligning sensors and analyzing readings. Could it be the mole? She asked, her tone sharp. Sira shook her head. Uncertain. Dominion fleet formations suggest a coordinated strategy beyond a single. Saboteur, this feels personal. Rachel's pulse quickened. Kalen. She didn't need to say more. The Expanse was not forgiving. Shadows of drifting asteroids cast fractured silhouettes across the nebula's glow, and the narrow passages made maneuvering a dance of precision and peril. As the Dominion ships emerged from hiding, their plasma cannons flared like violent bursts of lightning, illuminating the darkness with deadly intent. Evasive patterns, Beta 5, Rachel ordered, her voice calm but urgent. Deploy decoys and maintain velocity. We're not going to survive a direct engagement here. Sira's fingers moved faster, weaving calculations and projections. They're adapting to our maneuvers faster than expected. Rachel exhaled sharply. Of course they are. Kalen would never waste an advantage. She adjusted their trajectory, threading the ship through a narrow canyon, the walls shimmering with charged nebula dust. Plasma bolts ricocheted harmlessly off decoy drones, lighting the canyon like a fireworks display. Amid the chaos, Kalen's voice filtered through the comm link, low, smooth, and disarmingly intimate. Envoy Deyra, he said, almost a whisper, you've learned well. But shadows can conceal more than enemies. They can conceal truths. Do you wish to see? Rachel's pulse raced. She should have ignored him, yet something compelled her to respond. I see only the path I choose, and that path does not include surrender. There was a pause, a subtle acknowledgement of her defiance. Very well, he said. But understand, Some veils cannot be lifted without consequences. The Dominion ships forced them into a narrow section of the nebula where the charged particles refracted light into dangerous, jagged beams. Rachel gritted her teeth. "Prepare for contact. Shields at maximum. Weapons online." A sudden explosion rocked the Selene's Promise, knocking consoles offline and sending sparks raining across the bridge. Rachel staggered but recovered quickly, her eyes scanning the rapidly shifting battlefield. The Dominion had anticipated their maneuvers, forcing them into a kill zone that could have ended their mission and their lives. Yet she didn't panic. Not now, not ever. "Redirect all auxiliary power to engines. Push us through the nebula." Syrah's voice trembled with a mix of fear and awe. "We'll make it, Envoy, if we can just—" A sudden flash blinded the sensors. Kalen's flagship appeared, cloaked in darkness, moving with precision that defied explanation. It intercepted the Dominion's attack, disabling their targeting, a raise without engaging in full-scale combat. The revelation hit Rachel like a shockwave. He was not just a strategist, he was a ghost in the system, controlling the battlefield even when unseen. After the battle subsided, Rachel activated the comlink, her hands trembling slightly. "Kalen," she said, her voice low, almost breathless. "Why? Why intervene?" His image materialized, eyes locked onto hers. "Because even in opposition, I respect talent. And because the Expanse is larger than our grudges. But understand this, Rachel. The shadows you navigate are dangerous, yes? But they are also illuminating." She clenched her fists, frustrated by the enigma he presented. "Every time you appear, I lose control. Not of my mission, but of this," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Kalen's expression softened, a flicker of something, tender and human, breaking through his calculated demeanor. "Perhaps," he said, "the Expanse is teaching you the same lesson it teaches me. Desire and danger are intertwined, and only the brave, or the foolish, navigate both." Rachel's chest tightened. She wanted to respond, to bridge the distance between them, yet the battle was not over. Her eyes swept the nebula, calculating. The mole remained active, the Dominion's fleet regrouped, and the ruin's pulse still echoed in her mind, a persistent reminder that the stakes were higher than any personal feelings. Later, in the quiet of her private quarters, Rachel stared out into the glowing nebula, her reflection fractured by the ship's reinforced glass. "He saved me, and yet I cannot trust him." Her thoughts spiraled between strategy and emotion, the lines of duty and desire blurred into a dangerous gray. Her comlink chimed softly. A single message: "Do not let shadows rule your heart. K." Rachel's lips pressed into a thin line. She knew Kalen was always several moves ahead, not just on the battlefield, but in the game of hearts, in the manipulation of perception and desire. And as the Selene's Promise drifted through the nebula, battered but unbroken, Rachel understood a harsh truth. The veil of shadows was not merely a tactic, it was a warning. In the Aurelia Expanse, betrayal, desire, and survival were inseparable, and the true test of her strength was only beginning. The corridors of Deyra's spire were colder than Rachel had remembered. Steel walls reflected the soft luminescence of embedded conduits, and every step she took echoed like a warning. The Expanse outside glittered with distant starlight, but inside, shadows moved in ways far more dangerous. Allies and enemies wore the same polished smiles, each gesture hiding motives sharper than the edge of a plasma blade. Rachel Deyra's mission had become a delicate dance of deception and diplomacy. The Dominion fleet was regrouping. The alien, Ruin's pulse thrummed like a persistent heartbeat in her mind, and the mole within the coalition had grown bolder. But the most dangerous factor remained Kalen Vythe, enigmatic, magnetic, and unpredictably lethal. Rachel convened a council in the Spire's strategy hall. The holographic table displayed fleet positions, nebula hazards, and intelligence reports. Every delegate present was carefully scrutinized, some for loyalty, others for subtle betrayals. The mole's presence was a shadow hanging over the room, a hidden virus in the coalition's systems. "Envoy," Lieutenant Sierra said, leaning over the display. "The mole has compromised supply lines near Lyria. If we don't act quickly, Dominion forces will gain a tactical advantage." Rachel's gaze swept over the holograms, eyes narrowing. "We will cut off their access, but subtlety is key. The mole must be caught unaware, or they could disappear before we strike." The council murmured, some nodding in agreement, others exchanging uncertain glances. Trust was a luxury Rachel could not afford. Not here, not now. That evening, Rachel walked the Spire's observation deck alone, seeking clarity amidst the chaos. The nebula outside shimmered with colors that defied language, violet streaks interlaced with emerald pulses, the cosmic dance reflecting the turbulence of her own thoughts. Kalen's voice arrived without warning over the secure comlink, soft and intimate. "Envoy Deyra, tangled alliances are the Expanse's oldest art. And yet," he paused, letting the weight of unspoken meaning linger, "even in webs of deception, clarity is sometimes found in unexpected places." Rachel's chest tightened. "Your advice is not needed, Kalen, and your interference is unwelcome." Interference? His voice carried amusement, but there was something more, an undertone of sincerity, almost a confession. Or guidance. Consider it a gift from someone who knows the cost of misplaced trust. She swallowed hard. The pull between them was undeniable, magnetic, dangerous. "I cannot allow it," she reminded herself. Yet each interaction left her more entangled in his orbit, his presence a shadow in every calculation. The following day, intelligence revealed the mole's identity. Counselor Seren, a high-ranking official from the Lumerian Trade Guild. He had been feeding Kalen information for months, exploiting divisions within the coalition to manipulate both sides. Rachel moved swiftly, confronting him in a secluded chamber of the Spire. The moment was tense, charged with authority and threat. "Counselor Seren," Rachel said, voice steady, "your duplicity ends here. You will provide every record of Dominion communications and movements." "Now?" Seren's lips curled into a sly smile. "Ah, Envoy Deyra. Always so precise. But do you think unmasking me will solve the problem? Kalen is more than one man. He is the strategy, the mind, the shadow, guiding this entire conflict. Cutting me out is just a scratch on the surface." Rachel's hands tensed into fists. "Then we will expose the network, every hidden message, every falsified supply line. You won't be the only one held accountable." Seren's eyes glimmered, calculating. "And Kalen? Can you truly act against him without risking everything?" Rachel's breath hitched. "He is part of this puzzle and part of my heart." Later, Rachel returned to her ship, the Selene's Promise, and accessed the ruin's latest energy readings. The alien monolith pulsed faintly, echoing with a rhythm she had begun to recognize, almost as if it were a living intelligence observing her. Images flickered across her vision, fleets maneuvering, ghosts of civilizations long gone, and fleeting glimpses of Kalen, his decisions intertwined with her own in ways she could not yet comprehend. Her heart raced. The ruin is teaching me, or testing me, and Kalen is part of it. Kalen's voice came through the comlink again, low and magnetic. "Envoy, trust is a dangerous commodity, but in this expanse, alliances are fragile and hearts even more so. Do not forget that I am always watching, always calculating, and sometimes I am your only chance of survival." Rachel's reflection stared back at her from the viewport, resolute yet conflicted. He is danger, he is desire, and he may be the only one capable of helping me navigate this labyrinth. The expanse outside shimmered with unending light, vast and indifferent. Yet Rachel understood one truth with chilling clarity. Tangled alliances were not merely political. They were personal, and every choice she made rippled across the galaxy through hearts and fleets alike. The game had evolved, and the line between ally, enemy, and lover had never been more blurred. The Expanse was alive tonight. Nebula clouds glowed with violent intensity, charged particles crackling in shades of violet and gold, reflecting the chaos that had settled across the galaxy. Rachel Deyra stood on the bridge of the Selene, Promise, her fingers hovering over the controls, every muscle taut. The Dominion fleet had mobilized for a full-scale assault on the Aurelia Expanse, and the alien ruin pulsed ominously, almost as if anticipating the coming collision. Lieutenant Syrah's voice broke the tense silence. Envoy, sensors indicate multiple Dominion cruisers approaching Vector 18. Their trajectory is coordinated, almost predictive. Kalen's interference is likely influencing their strategy, but not fully controlling it. Rachel's jaw tightened. Then the advantage is ours, if we play this carefully. Prepare defensive formations and energy shields. Every maneuver must be precise. One misstep, and the Expanse swallows us whole. Kalen's voice cut in over the comlink, smooth and intimate as ever. Envoy Deyra, do you feel it? The Expanse is a living thing tonight. Every pulse of that ruin resonates through both fleets. Every choice you make echoes in the void, and so does mine. Rachel's pulse quickened, not with fear, but with something far more dangerous. Stop speaking in riddles, Kalen. We do not have time for games. He smiled faintly, the image flickering against the dim lighting of his flagship. Games, perhaps, but all games have consequences, and I trust you understand them better than most. Her breath hitched. His words were magnetic, pulling at her resolve. Focus, she reminded herself. The fleet is in danger. The ruin is in danger. And yet, he is always there, entwined with both. The Dominion fleet emerged fully from the nebula, cloaked vessels shifting in ghostly formation. Their plasma cannons flared, igniting the nebula clouds in bursts of violet and gold. Rachel's team scrambled, deploying decoy drones and firing countermeasures. Every calculation, every command was a race against death. "Brace for impact," Rachel shouted. "Evasive maneuvers, Gamma 7, shields at maximum, weapons online." Plasma bolts streaked past, the Selene's Promise weaving through the chaos with deadly precision. The alien ruin pulsed in response, sending waves of energy that distorted space around it. Rachel felt the vibration in her chest, resonating with the ruin itself, as if the monolith was not only observing but judging every action. And then Kalen appeared. His flagship cut through the Dominion lines with ghost-like grace, disrupting targeting arrays, redirecting attacks, and minimizing damage to Rachel's fleet. Yet he did not come closer, not yet, allowing the tension between them to simmer like a coiled spring. Hours stretched, each moment a delicate dance of death and strategy. Rachel realized that Kalen's presence was more than tactical. It was personal. The ruin seemed to respond to both of them simultaneously, linking their thoughts, their intentions, and, dangerously, their emotions. In a rare moment of silence, Rachel allowed herself a glance at the stars through the viewport. The nebula shimmered like fire, mirroring the chaos of her mind. I cannot allow him to control me, even indirectly. Not here, not now. Yet Kalen's voice found her again, soft and close, despite the distance. Rachel, do you ever wonder if all this, the fleets, the ruin, the Expanse itself, is just a test? Not of strategy, but of the heart? Her fingers clenched the console, knuckles white. I do not have the luxury of pondering your philosophical riddles, Kalen. Survival is my priority. Ah, he said, almost amused, and yet your heart betrays you, even as your mind rules. Her breath caught. The ruin pulsed more strongly. Now, resonating with their unspoken connection, it was as if it sensed the tension between them, the dangerous proximity of desire and duty. Every command Rachel gave, every tactical choice, was mirrored in Kalen's subtle maneuvers. They were intertwined, whether they liked it or not. The climax of the battle came suddenly. A Dominion supercruiser fired a concentrated plasma barrage aimed directly at the Selene's promise. Rachel reacted instantly, redirecting shields and launching countermeasures, but the impact was inevitable. The ship shuddered violently, alarms blaring. Sparks rained across the bridge, and Lieutenant Sierra shouted over the chaos, "Envoy! We'll be ripped apart if we don't." "Not yet," Rachel shouted. She aligned the ship with the ruin's energy resonance, channeling its pulses through their shields. A wave of energy radiated outward, deflecting the incoming attack. The fleet was saved, for now, the exhilaration and relief coursing through. Her were dangerously intertwined with something else. The memory of Kalen's indirect intervention, the undeniable awareness of him connected through the ruin, and the pull of emotions she could not suppress. After the battle, Rachel retreated to a small observation alcove. The nebula outside glowed softly now, calm after the storm. She allowed herself a moment to breathe, to feel, and to recognize a truth she had tried to deny. Kalen Vaith was no longer just an enemy, no longer just a rival strategist. He had become a force entwined with her every choice, her every heartbeat. Her comm link chimed softly. A single message, unencrypted: "We survived together. And yet, I wonder, will your heart ever survive me?" Krachel pressed her lips, together, staring at the stars. The collision of hearts, of desires, and of destinies had begun, and in the Aurelia Expanse there was no room for hesitation, only choices and consequences. The council chambers of Deyra's spire were eerily silent. The usual hum of strategy discussions and diplomatic debates was replaced by a tense stillness, broken only by the soft whirring of surveillance drones tracing every movement. Rachel. Deyra entered deliberately, her boots clicking against polished metal floors, every step measured. Shadows of unease clung to the room like static electricity. The mole, Counselor Saren, had been exposed and restrained, but the reverberations of his treachery had shaken the coalition to its core. Trust was fractured, and Rachel knew the Dominion was already exploiting the fissures she had barely begun to mend. Every ally now carried suspicion in their eyes, and every smile felt like a potential knife. Rachel's fingers rested on the edge of the holographic table. "We cannot allow Saren's betrayal to paralyze us," she said, voice firm, echoing through the chamber. "The Dominion fleet is reorganizing, and the ruin's pulse indicates increasing instability. Our actions now must be precise, decisive, and united." A high-ranking delegate, General Velron, frowned. "And yet, Envoy, how can we trust anyone? Alliances are crumbling before our eyes. Even Kalen's interference, while useful—" Rachel's gaze sharpened. "Kalen's interference is tactical. His motives remain ambiguous, yes, but the Expanse is forcing our hand. Right now, the survival of the coalition and the integrity of the ruin take precedence over political sentiment." Velron's jaw tightened, but he nodded. The truth was uncomfortable, yet undeniable. Without Rachel's guidance, their fragmented forces would fall. Later, Rachel returned to the observation deck, seeking the only solace she could find: the stars, and the ruins' faint resonance echoing in her mind. The nebula stretched endlessly, glowing with violet streaks and shifting gold filaments. She could feel the pulse of the monolith through the ship's systems, a subtle vibration that seemed to tug at her very thoughts. And then Kalen's voice appeared through the comm link, quiet and intimate as always. "Rachel," he said softly, "fractured loyalties are a test of character, of resolve. And yet, some fractures cannot be repaired without understanding the forces behind them." Her pulse quickened, not with fear, but with the dangerous pull of his presence. "Kalen, the time for riddles is over. The coalition is in chaos. The Dominion advances, and the ruin, he interrupted gently, almost tenderly. The ruin will respond to those who command clarity and courage, but you must also see that not all fractures are external. Some lie within ourselves. Her lips pressed into a thin line. He is right, and it terrifies me, she thought, because I cannot fully trust my own heart around him. That evening, Rachel convened a covert team in the war room. The holographic map displayed Dominion positions, destabilized sectors, and anomalous energy readings from the ruin. "We have intelligence that another mole may exist," Rachel announced, voice sharp. "Seren was only the surface. We must identify any remaining traitors before they compromise our next moves. Every division, every hesitation, costs lives." Lieutenant Sira leaned in, concern evident. "And Kalen? His proximity, can we fully rely on his intentions?" Rachel hesitated, her thoughts momentarily drifting to the ruins, to the ghostly connection they shared. "He acts in the Expanse's interest," she said carefully, "but his motives are intertwined with his own objectives. Treat him as a variable, not an ally, yet not an enemy either." The room absorbed her words with a mix of tension and uncertainty. Every plan required precision, but every plan also carried the weight of personal risks Rachel had yet to fully reconcile. Later still, Rachel accessed the ruin directly, navigating its alien currents of energy. The monolith's resonance intensified, images flashing across her vision, fleets falling, colonies thriving, and moments of Kalen's decisions intertwined with her own. The realization struck her. The ruin did not merely respond to actions, it understood intent. It could see hearts and minds. Her chest tightened. "Kalen's influence is inseparable from mine, but can I control it?" And then the ruin revealed something new. Shadowed figures within the coalition whispering and plotting, ready to sabotage her next move. Betrayal was deeper than she imagined, layered and intricate. Survival depended not only on strategy, but on navigating the treacherous currents of trust and desire. As Rachel prepared her next move, a message appeared on her secure comlink, unencrypted but unmistakably from Kalen. "You see the fractures, Rachel? But remember, the Expanse has a way of weaving even broken threads into strength. And sometimes the heart must fracture to survive." Her breath caught. He was right. And yet that knowledge carried a dangerous weight. The fractures were not just in alliances, they were within her own heart, in the delicate balance between desire, duty, and survival. Rachel exhaled slowly, steeling herself. The next moves would define not only the fate of the coalition, but the fragile connection she could no longer deny existed with Kalen. The Expanse outside shimmered with unrelenting brilliance, vast, infinite, and indifferent. But within it, loyalties were tested, hearts were revealed, and the collision of desire and duty threatened to reshape everything Rachel had fought to protect. The Expanse trembled as if aware of what was to come. Nebulous storms twisted violently, turning violet clouds into whirls of gold and black. Rachel Deyra stood on the bridge of the Selena's Promise, gripping the rail, her knuckles white. The coalition fleet had been pushed to the brink by Dominion advances, and every sensor ping carried ominous promise. Enemies were everywhere, and allies were not always as they seemed. "Envoy," Lieutenant Sira said, voice tight, "the Dominion's strike teams have breached perimeter defenses at 3 critical points. Shields won't hold for long. They're targeting the ruin directly." Rachel's eyes narrowed. "We can't let them reach it. If they do, the pulse could destabilize completely, and everything we fought for will collapse." Kalen's image flickered onto the comlink, calm, magnetic, and dangerously intense. "Rachel, you know the stakes. The ruin's resonance will protect those who are attuned, but the Dominion seeks to corrupt that energy. You cannot fail." She met his gaze through the hologram, chest tightening. "And you? What are you doing here, Kalen? Why are you always entwined in this chaos?" His eyes softened for a fraction of a second, enough for her heart to stutter. Because even in opposition, I am drawn to the heart of the matter, and right now, that heart is you. Rachel blinked, breath caught. The heart of the matter. He speaks as if he knows my soul, yet she could not afford distraction. Not now. Not with fleets clashing and the ruins' pulse flickering erratically. The battle erupted with brutal suddenness. Dominion ships surged through the expanse, plasma beams carving paths of destruction through drifting asteroids. Rachel coordinated evasive maneuvers with expert precision, weaving the Selena's promise through debris fields while maintaining energy links to the ruin. Deploy decoys. Fire vector shields at maximum, she commanded, every word slicing through the chaos like a scalpel. Explosions rocked the ship as Dominion energy struck, and for a moment the bridge was consumed by sparks and smoke. Rachel's vision blurred, but she did not falter. The ruins' pulse resonated through the ship, steadying her, aligning her thoughts. It is alive. It is aware. And it is responding to us. Kalen intervened from the shadows of the battlefield. His flagship moved like a phantom, disabling Dominion targeting arrays and diverting attacks without direct engagement. Yet every move seemed choreographed, not just to save the fleet, but to draw Rachel into a silent, unspoken dialogue. Envoy Deyra, his voice came low, intimate, threading through the comlink. Do you feel it? The Expanse speaks in currents of thought and pulse. Let it guide you, and let me guide you in return. Her pulse quickened, not with fear, but with the undeniable pull of him. Kalen, if this is a trap, it is only a trap if your heart allows it to be, he whispered. Rachel's chest tightened. Desire, frustration, and the weight of duty collided inside her like the violent nebula storms outside. I cannot let him distract me, she thought. And yet, I cannot ignore him either. Minutes stretched like hours as the battle raged. Dominion, strike teams breached the outer defenses, and Rachel coordinated countermeasures with every ounce of skill she possessed. But it was not enough. The ruin's energy flickered violently, unstable and reactive. Rachel's hands flew across the controls, tapping into the monolith's resonance. A wave of energy pulsed outward, a shield that distorted the Dominion fire and protected the Coalition. Fleet temporarily. She felt the ruin respond, almost like a heartbeat, deep, aware, patient, and then she saw them, the mole's accomplices, hidden among the fleet, sending distorted energy signals to the Dominion. Betrayal within betrayal. Sierra, target the compromised vessels. Neutralize them before they corrupt the resonance. Yes, Envoy, Sierra shouted, fingers flying across the interface. The pulse surged again, stronger, synchronized with Rachel's own rhythm, with Kalen's unseen guidance. Dominion ships faltered, their strikes misfiring, and for the first time Rachel felt a surge of hope amidst the chaos. After the battle, the Selene's promise hovered silently, drifting among the nebula's glowing remnants. Rachel's hands trembled as she touched the console. Her reflection in the viewport was pale, weary, but resolute. The Coalition had survived, the ruin remained intact, and the Dominion fleet had retreated. For now, Kalen's image appeared, on the comlink again, softer now, almost human in its intimacy. You did well, Rachel. The Expanse respects those who act with courage and clarity. But understand this. The shadows are never fully gone, and neither are the choices we make when hearts collide. Rachel's chest tightened. Kalen, He vanished before she could finish, leaving only a lingering presence, a magnetic pull she could not resist, even as the weight of duty pressed down upon her. The Expanse shimmered with calm, yet Rachel knew the war was far from over. Shadows had been unbound tonight, revealed, confronted, yet persistent. And in the midst of cosmic chaos, a single truth remained undeniable. The collision of hearts, desire, and duty had begun, and it would shape the future of the Aurelia Expanse. The aftermath of the battle left the Aurelia Expanse eerily quiet. Nebula clouds shimmered faintly, casting fractured light across the corridors of the Selene's Promise. Deyra moved deliberately through the ship, her thoughts heavy with the echoes of the past weeks, Dominion assaults, betrayal from within, and the persistent magnetic presence of Kalen Vaith. Every step she took seemed to echo a growing realization. Nothing in this galaxy was as it appeared. Lieutenant Sira approached cautiously, carrying a data pad, brimming with analysis. Envoy, the ruin's pulse has stabilized, but there are anomalies. Residual energy patterns suggest multiple consciousness imprints. Some are Dominion, some unfamiliar. Almost as if the ruin itself is storing memories of the past. Rachel's eyes narrowed, her fingers brushing the edge of the console. "Memories?" she whispered. The idea sent a shiver down her spine. So this isn't just a structure, it's a witness, a recorder, maybe even a judge. Sira nodded. Exactly. And some of these imprints react to certain frequencies. Whoever can interpret them, whoever can access their resonance, could uncover truths hidden for millennia. Rachel exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of destiny pressing down. The ruin's secrets had been a constant force, guiding and testing her. But now, with the echoes of truth within reach, the stakes had escalated. She could no longer act solely as envoy. She needed to become something more, a translator, a guardian, and perhaps a bridge between the ruin and the galaxy. Later, in the ship's observation deck, Rachel accessed the alien monolith directly through the neural interface. The pulse of energy surged through her mind, vivid and almost alive. Images flickered, fleets clashing, civilizations rising and falling, and Kalen moving through the expanse as if in perfect synchrony with her own actions. Her pulse quickened. He's been guiding me all along. But to what end? A sudden surge of energy struck the interface, almost knocking her consciousness into a haze of colors and sensations. And then a voice, unmistakably Kalen's but different, layered with reverence and warning. Rachel, you are the key. The ruin sees intent, and it responds. But clarity must precede power. Choices now will echo across time itself. Her heart raced, and for a moment desire and duty collided violently in her chest. Kalen, what are you? Why are you always 2 steps ahead? Are you part of the ruin or its guardian? His reply was soft, almost confessional. I am neither entirely but both. I exist in the spaces between control and chaos, just as you do. The ruin tests all who come near, and you are exceptional. Rachel's connection to the monolith deepened. Echoes of past conflicts, personal losses, and victories, long forgotten, cascaded through her mind. She saw the faces of civilizations the ruin had observed, the betrayals that had reshaped entire star systems, and fragments of Kalen's own. History, a man bound to strategy and secrecy, yet driven by a quiet, enduring hope. She realized then that Kalen had not just been guiding her in battle, he had been preparing her for this moment. The ruin's resonance required understanding not only tactics and technology, but the intricate truths of human emotion. Desire, loyalty, and sacrifice were as much part of its language as energy and light. A sudden alert interrupted her immersion. Dominion fleets were regrouping, and anomalous energy readings indicated potential sabotage from hidden agents within the coalition. Rachel's heart sank. Even as she grasped the truth, danger remained ever present. Kalen's voice returned, urgent now, pulling her back from the monolith's depths. Rachel, the choices you make here define more than survival. They shape the very future of the Expanse. You must act now. Her mind cleared. The echoes of truth had illuminated the path. She would confront the Dominion, secure the coalition, and harness the ruin's resonance, not for conquest, but to stabilize the galaxy. And she would face Kalen, not as rival or seducer, but as partner in purpose, even if desire remained a dangerous undercurrent. Later, as the Selene's promise drifted above the Calmand Nebula, Rachel allowed herself a moment to breathe. She stared at the swirling colors outside the viewport, pulse synchronized with the ruin's heartbeat. And then, faintly, almost imperceptibly, Kalen's presence lingered on the comlink, not commanding, not intervening, but patient, magnetic, and waiting. A single thought surged through her. The truth had been revealed, yet the future remained, unwritten. Every choice, every heartbeat, every shadowed intent would now define the balance of power, love, and survival. And Rachel Deyra, once only envoy, now understood herself as something more, a force intertwined with the ruin, the expanse, and the man she could neither resist nor fully trust. The echoes of truth were clear, but their consequences were just beginning. The silence of the Coalition Command Center was fractured by murmurs of unease. Rachel Deyra entered, her posture rigid, every step measured. Shadows lingered in corners, whispers carried the weight of suspicion, and even allies seemed to doubt one another. The Dominion fleet was still regrouping, but the greater danger now was internal. Betrayal had wormed itself deeper than anyone had realized. Lieutenant Sierra approached, eyes wide with urgency. "Envoy, we've intercepted encrypted transmissions. More agents, hidden within our own ranks, are funneling intelligence to the Dominion. This isn't just Saren anymore. Someone far higher is involved." Rachel's jaw tightened. "Then the fracture runs deeper than we feared. Prepare the Council for an emergency vote. Everyone must be accounted for. No one leaves this chamber until we know who is loyal." The room filled with tension so thick it could be felt in the air. Delegates exchanged uneasy glances. Loyalty, once assumed, was now a fragile commodity. Rachel's mind raced, considering strategies, contingencies, and potential allies she could trust or manipulate. Later, in her private quarters, Rachel allowed herself a brief moment of solitude. The nebula outside the viewport shimmered with violent purples and golds, a reflection of the storm she felt inside. Kalen's presence lingered in her thoughts, magnetic and dangerous. "Even now his influence is a shadow over every decision I make," she admitted. Heart tightening, her comlink chimed. Kalen's image appeared, calm but tense, his dark eyes piercing. "Rachel, you feel it too, don't you? The fractures, the whispers, the hidden threads of treachery. The expanse does not forgive hesitation, nor does it forgive misplaced trust." "I feel it," Rachel admitted, her voice steady, "and I've begun to understand. The ruin reveals more than just history. It reveals intent, desire, fear, betrayal. All of it leaves a mark." Kalen's gaze softened for a fraction of a second. "And yet, even in the heart of deception, you remain remarkable. But know this, not all bonds can withstand the truth once it is exposed." Her pulse quickened. Desire tangled with duty in a way she could no longer separate. "I cannot fully trust him, yet I cannot resist him." The emergency council convened, the atmosphere electric with tension. Rachel stood at the center, projecting authority and clarity. Holographic screens displayed fleet positions, energy readings from the ruin, and intercepted transmissions from suspected traitors. "Counselors," she began, voice cutting through the murmurs, "we face betrayal not from an enemy alone, but from within our ranks. Every decision, every delay, endangers not just our survival, but the stability of the expanse itself. We will identify the traitors, and we will neutralize them immediately." A sharp murmur ran through the room. General Velron's expression darkened. "And how do we know that this investigation will not be manipulated, that we do not act against loyal officers by mistake?" Rachel met his gaze, unwavering. "Because the ruin itself will guide us. Its resonance cannot lie. It will reveal intent and alignment, and if we falter, then we fail entirely. Minutes later, the first wave of confirmations came in. 2 high-ranking officers had been complicit in the sabotage, sending Dominion fleets false coordinates and falsified energy readings. Rachel's heart sank. These were trusted figures, friends even, whose betrayal cut deeper than any enemy's attack. "Syra," Rachel ordered, "secure the officers and lock down all communication channels. The Dominion cannot exploit these fractures further." As the officers were escorted out, Rachel allowed herself a brief moment to feel the weight of their betrayal. Bonds she had assumed unbreakable were now shattered. Yet amidst the fractures, a strange clarity emerged. Survival, strategy, and the ruin's resonance demanded decisiveness, not hesitation. Later, alone on the observation deck, Rachel allowed herself a moment of reflection. The nebula outside glowed, beautiful yet dangerous, and Kalen's presence lingered as if drawn by the ruin itself. His voice came softly through the comlink. "Rachel, the bonds we form are tested, broken, and reforged in the crucible of the Expanse. But know this, whatever fractures have appeared, some connections cannot be destroyed, even when the shadows seem overwhelming." Her chest tightened. "I want to believe that. I need to believe that." The Expanse shimmered, indifferent to human turmoil, yet alive with the resonance of past and present. Rachel understood one undeniable truth. The fractures in loyalty, heart, and trust had reshaped the battlefield. The Dominion's threat remained, betrayal lingered, and Kalen was as inescapable as the ruin's pulse. And she knew with certainty that the next choices, both strategic and personal, would determine not only her survival, but the very fate of the Aurelia Expanse. The Aurelia Expanse burned with restless energy, nebula storms twisting in violent spirals of violet, gold, and obsidian. From the observation deck of the Selene's Promise, Rachel Deyra watched the spectacle with a mixture of awe and dread. This was the culmination of everything. The Dominion fleet regrouped in unprecedented numbers. The Coalition's fractured loyalties had been tested, and the alien ruins' resonance pulsed with an intensity that seemed almost alive. "Lieutenant," Syra approached quietly, her face tight with concern. "Envoy, Dominion forces are converging on all known coordinates. Sensors indicate the Expanse itself is reacting, distorting energy flows, creating unpredictable currents. We cannot rely on conventional tactics alone." Rachel's jaw clenched. "Then we use everything at our disposal. Fleet coordination, the ruins' resonance, and him." Her thoughts flickered involuntarily to Kalen Vaith. Every strategic move he had made had brought them to this point. Every whisper, every guiding pulse had intertwined with her own actions. Desire and duty collided within her chest. She could not ignore him, not now, not ever. Kalen's image appeared on the comlink, calm, magnetic, yet taut with urgency. "Rachel, this is the point of convergence. The ruin will amplify intent. Every choice, every heartbeat, every alignment of will matters. Do not falter, do not hesitate." Her lips pressed into a firm line. "And if your intent conflicts with mine?" He smirked faintly, almost teasing. "Then we see which of us the Expanse favors." The tension was unbearable, yet underneath it pulsed a strange electricity. Connection that neither logic nor caution could sever. Rachel took a deep breath. "I am not just envoy. I am the conduit, and he is part of this, whether I like it or not." The battle erupted in full force. Dominion supercruisers surged through the Expanse, plasma beams arcing like lightning across nebula clouds. Rachel directed the Coalition fleet with surgical precision, weaving through debris, activating energy pulses drawn from the ruin itself, and coordinating with Kalen in a silent, unspoken synergy. "Vector Gamma 9, shields at maximum, decoy drones deployed," she commanded, her voice cutting through chaos like a blade. Kalen's presence complemented her maneuvers. His flagship moved like a phantom, redirecting attacks, disabling Dominion targeting arrays and creating openings for the Coalition. But unlike before, he did not guide her silently. This time, every decision was a collaboration, a dance of minds and wills. The ruin pulsed with each maneuver, amplifying both strategy and emotion. Rachel could feel it in her chest, the resonance aligning her thoughts, her intent, and even her heartbeat with Kaelin's. Desire and duty were inseparable now. One could not exist without the other. Amidst the chaos, a Dominion dreadnought surged forward, its energy cannon aimed directly at the Seleni's promise. Rachel acted instinctively, channeling the ruin's energy into a defensive pulse. Shields flared, arcs of light cutting through the void, and the dreadnought was thrown off course. Kaelin's voice came softly, yet piercingly, through the comlink. "Your resolve strengthens the pulse. Focus, Rachel. Let your intent guide it." Her pulse quickened, her hands moving with fluid precision across the controls. "Focus. Align. Protect." The ruin responded, amplifying her will, bending the expanse itself to shield her fleet. And then she realized the truth. This was not just a battle. It was a fusion of hearts, minds, and cosmic will. The Dominion fleet faltered, the combined resonance of Rachel and Kaelin overwhelming their forces. Ships misfired, targeting arrays collapsed, and chaos spread through the enemy lines. Yet even in victory, Rachel felt the weight of cost. Alliances strained, the ruin's pulse thrummed with exhaustion, and her own heart ached with longing. After the final skirmish, the nebula calmed. Violet and gold swirls softened, reflecting across the Seleni's Promise's hull. Rachel stood at the observation deck, breath steadying, as Kaelin's image appeared beside her on the comlink. "You did it," he said softly, voice threaded with admiration and something deeper, something tender. "I did not do it alone," she replied, eyes meeting his through the holographic shimmer. "We did it together." For a long moment, silence stretched between them, filled only by the pulse of the ruin and the gentle glow of the nebula. Then Kaelin's hand reached toward the interface, and for a fleeting instant it seemed to bridge the distance between them. Rachel's lips curved into a faint, determined smile. "The expanse, the ruin, it has tested us, but we endure, and we choose each other, even amidst the chaos." His smile mirrored hers, a quiet affirmation. "Even amidst the chaos," he repeated, and this time there was no tension, only the bond forged through battle, trust, and unspoken desire. The Aurelia Expanse shimmered around them, infinite, alive, and patient. And for the first time in centuries, it seemed to settle, recognizing the unity of hearts, wills, and destiny. The Dominion threat had been repelled, the Coalition secured, and Rachel Deyra had stepped fully into her role, not just as envoy, but as guardian, leader, and the pulse of the Expanse itself. And Kaelin was no longer just a shadow in the void. He was the echo of her own heartbeat, inseparable, undeniable, and finally revealed. The Aurelia Expanse had quieted. Nebula storms, once violent and tumultuous, now shimmered in gentle waves of violet and gold, painting the void with a serene luminescence. Rachel Deyra stood on the observation deck of the Seleni's Promise, eyes tracing the drifting energy ribbons of the Expanse. The battles had ended, the Dominion had retreated, or so it seemed, and the Coalition had begun to rebuild, stronger and more cautious. Yet Rachel knew the Expanse was alive, and its awareness endured. The alien ruin pulsed faintly, a heartbeat. She could feel in her chest, as if the structure itself were watching, remembering, and silently judging. Lieutenant Sierra approached, quieter than usual, carrying a datapad with mission debriefs and energy analysis. "Envoy," she said softly, "the Coalition's recovery is ahead of schedule. Loyalty has been restored, and the Dominion fleets are retreating beyond known Expanse boundaries. Your leadership, it's unprecedented." Rachel exhaled slowly, letting the weight of those words settle. Sira, leadership is not a title, it is a choice. And choices are measured not in victories alone, but in the lives we protect and the bonds we honor. Sira's eyes flicked toward the observation viewport. And Kalen, he's different now. Not just your ally in battle, but Rachel turned, a soft smile tugging at her lips. He is part of the resonance, part of the expanse, and part of me. I don't fully understand it yet, and perhaps I never will. But he is here, and that is enough. Kalen's image flickered into existence, not commanding, not distant, but close, almost tangible. Rachel, he said, voice low and magnetic, the expanse is vast. Time stretches differently here. Battles are fleeting, yet consequences echo endlessly. And yet, amidst all that, you endured. You chose clarity, even when hearts fractured and trust was tested. Her pulse quickened. And you? She asked softly, leaning against the console, fingers brushing the interface. Did you endure? Or was I merely the path you needed? Kalen's smile was subtle, almost imperceptible, but his eyes held the answer. I endure with you because intent and heart are intertwined. The expanse could have chosen many conduits, many hearts, but it chose us together. Perhaps it knew before we did. Rachel's chest tightened. Together. Yet the expanse still waits, still observes. Desire and caution blended into something deeper, a recognition that their bond was forged in cosmic fire, tested through chaos, and tempered by trust and understanding. Later, Rachel accessed the alien ruin one final time. The monolith pulsed faintly in response, as if acknowledging her presence. Echoes of past civilizations, long-forgotten battles, and the imprints of countless sentient beings shimmered through the hard interface. She felt them all, the joy, the suffering, the triumphs, and the betrayals, and she understood something profound. The expanse did not merely witness, it responded to choices, to intent, and to connection. Kalen's presence joined hers in the interface, subtle but undeniable. You see now, he murmured, how fragile and beautiful this balance is. The ruin does not demand perfection, it demands truth. And you have found it, Rachel. Her fingers hovered over the console, and she allowed herself a rare moment, a vulnerability. Then we continue, she whispered, not as envoy and guide, but as partners, guardians of the resonance, stewards of this fragile peace. Outside, the nebula shimmered in colors more vivid than any sunrise, the energy ribbons of the expanse weaving intricate patterns across the void. The coalition's fleets drifted in disciplined formations, repairs underway, soldiers and diplomats alike learning the lessons of betrayal, trust, and cosmic responsibility. Rachel stood at the observation deck, eyes on the expanse, and for the first time allowed herself to imagine a future unburdened by constant threat, yet aware that vigilance would always be necessary. And beside her, in the resonance of heart and pulse, Kalen waited, not as a shadow, not as a guide, but as a companion, a mirror, and a challenge. The Aurelia Expanse would continue to test them, as it had always done. Shadows would rise, desires would clash, and the fragile balance of power, love, and cosmic resonance would always demand attention. But for now, Rachel allowed herself to breathe, to feel, and to trust in the echo of tomorrow, and, as the Selene's promise drifted through the glowing nebula, Rachel Deyra, guardian of the ruin, envoy of the expanse, and heartbeat bound to Kalen, finally understood that survival was more than endurance. It was choice, clarity, and connection. The stars shimmered, above infinite, patient, and alive, and in that quiet pulse Rachel smiled.